Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. You can hear me, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Chris.
How are you today?
Fine,
What
Chris.
is that background? Where are you?
I'm on the east side of Indianapolis at a Capitol Defense Seminar, the Paula Sykes Capitol Defense Seminar.
Great. So I want to, first of all, thank you, because this has been a really excruciating journey since the day after the election, you know, as a group of citizens, having the people who we thought were, you know, entrusted to protect our constitutional rights, explain them and, you know, execute them, to be telling us that we couldn't do it, it wouldn't work. You know, so it's not only great to have an attorney like you that knows the Constitution, that understands how we can use it effectively to enforce our rights as citizens, but that now, you know, we've taken off the gloves. And I want to thank you, because it was very gutsy of you. I want to state for the, oh, by the way, today is Thursday morning, September 14th, 2017, and we are 11 days away from U.S. Supreme Court case 16-1464. You can explain the formal title of that in a minute, but they're going to decide whether or not to hear our case. And so the sea of cynical, naysaying, negative voices coming from the legal establishment, who at the same time, you know, profess to be patriotic, hoping for the best, has been extremely discouraging. So, you know, when I asked you last night to take off the proverbial gloves and go to bat for us, little did I know, voila, we were going to end up just literally hours later with this amazing post, okay? This amazing response that you made. And just to set the context, and I'm going to let you take over here, there were some tweets going on last night where evidently, or yesterday, Professor Tribe has looked at the case, because just there's some different, we just know that he knows about it. And other people not related to us were just asking him, well, when are we going to nullify the election? And his flippant, in my opinion, cynical response, which is, well, we don't roll that way under the Constitution, was so shocking. And so I'm going to let you take it from here, because I'm so grateful that we now have, we're not just a ragtag group of citizens doing our best to like save our democracy, but we have a qualified attorney. And this is the final point. I'm sure you're going to be the subject of numerous ad hominem attacks. They're going to check your record. They're going to find all sorts of things that any human will find to attack you. So I just want to give you the chance today to really get going, get out in the front with this, and tell us, you know, what's on your mind, and kind of, you know, what brought you to this place where you say, Small teaches constitutional law to Professor Tribe. SCOTUS can void the election.
Well, it bothered me that Professor Tribe was taking the position, along with a lot of other lawyers, or I think they were lawyers, because a lot of these people will post things anonymously. So if they might say that someone might say they're a lawyer, I have no way of knowing that. But it seemed to be unanimous. There are only two ways. And there's a delay in the video, apparently, between what I'm saying and the image that's coming across, but don't worry about that. It seemed that there was unanimity that it was silly to believe that there was any way to remove a sitting president other than the two ways described in the Constitution. And that's under Article 2, Section 4 for impeachment, and the 25th Amendment that was adopted in 1967, it was ratified then, and that's to remove the president in the event that a president is incapable of performing, and it says his duties, it's his or her duties. So there was a case in 1976, a United States District Court case, as persuasive authority. It's not controlling authority on the U.S. Supreme Court, but there the U.S. District Court said there's no question, but the federal courts could void a presidential election under the equitable jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Chief Justice John Marshall in Marbury versus Madison said that where an injustice exists, the court will create a remedy to resolve that injustice. And here, as the court in 1976 said, it is, no one can see that the courts would be unable to void an election if it were illegal, if the margin of victory had been obtained by illegal voting or ballot stuffing. So we have an instance, that decision's never been overturned. It's not controlling precedent on the Supreme Court, but it's certainly persuasive authority. When Professor Tribe made this bold assertion that we don't roll that way, I'm not sure what he means by rolling, but people can read on civildiscoursenow.com, my blog, or they can go to revote2017.net, the webpage, and read the blog that I wrote. And I explained that what the framers intended, what Alexander Hamilton wrote, for example, that's not they didn't delineate and specify all the powers that were necessary. Some are implied because they're just things that a branch can do. In this instance, the judicial branch can order a special master, as we requested, and can, if it shows that there was an illegal election, void those results. The Supreme Court of Kenya just did that with their presidential election, and there is no reason that our United States Supreme Court cannot do the same.
Okay, so this was great. And what's interesting, you were talking about the original framers. Did I get you right? Did you compare the position that Professor Tribe's making about originalism to the Tea Party?
Well, no, yeah, I mean, what I said was, here I depart from people in the Tea Party, people who embraced originalism, a jurisprudence in which the original intent of the framers is paramount when one interprets the Constitution, and apparently on the matter of removal from office of a sitting president, Professor Tribe. Now, if that's comparing him to people in the Tea Party, I did it. But, that's saying what he is kind of embracing, which it doesn't say it in the Constitution, so it can't be done. And that's simply not true.
Well, also, I'm a woman, obviously, and I've been through this election. I've just really seen also the division on race and by race. And I understand why probably a large part of the African-American population is just tired, discouraged. Their votes have been taken away through repression, gerrymandering, et cetera, for years. So, but what's really aggravating to me are these white male authorities that have this brand talking about the original intent of the framers. And what I really love about your article is you talk about the real implications to people who are not white male property owners, right?
Yes, and because white male landowners were the people who wrote the Constitution. But also, everyone's vote was voided in November. Only if people intended to vote for a puppet of a Russian oligarch did those people have their right to vote actualized. I mean, otherwise, if they were voting for Trump in the belief that he was representing American interests, then from the evidence I've seen, and we ask that a special master be appointed to conduct an independent investigation, because this is, no matter how sincere Robert Mueller is, he's a part of the executive branch, and Trump can order the deputy attorney general to fire him at any time. And so Robert Mueller is subject to being fired by the executive branch. The judicial branch can appoint a special master, the Supreme Court can, to conduct an investigation and determine if, well, everybody's conceded that there was Russian interference in our election, but they can determine whether that had an effect on the outcome. Although Kenya's Supreme Court said they don't need to go that far. Once they saw that their election had been compromised and the integrity of the election had been compromised, the Supreme Court said, that's enough for us. We're going to have a new election. And that's really, we shouldn't have that two-pronged test here. That was a 1976 case. But if we have that, then we should have appointment of a special master.
Well, and that brings me to a really important point. people who accuse us of being candidate driven or party driven, I just want to put the cards on the table. I'm extremely disappointed in Hillary Clinton right now, for whom I voted, who's out there now with her book saying that Comey caused her to lose the election. I'm like, hello, your election was stolen. But aside from that, if anyone has any doubts, I'm also not happy with former President Obama, who was briefed by people with whom we've been in touch numerous times. His administration was personally briefed for years by the National Association of Voting Officials regarding the insecurity of our voting system, and particularly the dangers that were happening this time. And he knew the election was stolen. I mean, I'll tell you a headline you might not have seen this morning. David Korn of Mother Jones, who's an excellent investigative reporter, said Facebook is still hiding crucial Russia intel from the public. So the point being, this is not a partisan candidate-driven campaign. We are simply saying, as you did, the only people who should not be for an investigation, nullification, and new election, if in fact fraud is found, are people who are not for a free and fair election and a democracy, and people who, like you said, would rather go down with the ship.
No, actually, the people who voted for Trump believing that they were voting for a puppet of Putin are the people who had the right to vote actualized. But if people are looking at somehow the Democratic Party as being protective of progressive ideals, that's not really current. I mean, that's not true anymore. And neither party represents the interests of the people of the United States. They represent special interests. And if people are right of center, they should take over the Republican Party again. If they're left of center, the Democratic Party, because the framers created a two-party system structurally. You can't get around it. If you want to toss your vote away, do a third party. But take back those two parties. This is nonpartisan. We don't want to have a puppet of a Russian oligarch occupy the Oval Office, as is the case now. And if we do impeachment, that just puts Mike Pence in. Pence is a product of the same fraud that was perpetrated on the American public. So that's no good. We need to void the election and go from there. But the most important thing that people can do is express their outrage and demand at least there be an investigation, an independent investigation by a special master appointed by the United States Supreme Court. And that's on the docket number is 16-1464. And people can look at that petition on the revote2017.net website. And there are a lot of different things that are suggested that people can do.
Including, and we're going to leave you that because I know you have a seminar to attend to regarding capital punishment. But here we go to end this. And thank you again, Mark, for being available constantly and being so quick on your feet. And we do encourage anyone to tweet to Mark at MarkSmall1973. That is his Twitter handle. I'll show everyone that in a second here. That's MarkSmall1973. And finally, we would love for all of you to send postcards to the different justices. You can write to each one separately. So for example, Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Ginsburg, Justice Sotomayor, each one. Now with Justice Gorsuch, what you want to do is encourage him to keep on renting the Trump Tower and keep on.
No, wait. I can't have something like that said when I'm an officer of that court.
Okay, I'm sorry. As a citizen, are we allowed to write to our individual justices? Let me ask that. Not talking about you.
Yes, but I can't countenance impugning the integrity of a sitting judge.
Got it. So, okay.
He's an honorable man, and I would trust that he will do the right thing at the right time.
Sense of honor, and we will ask Justice Gorsuch to please recuse himself if he can't act fairly on this. We're going to assume that they all care about democracy, as you said. We're going to assume that the Supreme Court justices can and will do the right thing, that they will do their job, especially if the American people support them in that. So thank you for the correction. We don't want to have more division. No, you're right. We want this to be a positive, nonpartisan. I get a little bit upset sometimes, but here we go. Here, the postcard should be made out to whatever justice you're writing to at Supreme Court of the United States, 1st Street Northeast, Washington, D.C., 20543. And you can write anything you want, but things like, hear the case, 16-1464. You can keep it simple and heartfelt. Thank you so much, Mark, and you have an awesome day. We'll talk tomorrow.
Thanks, Kirsten. You too, and take care.